Our series for August is Who Are We? And we're giving you a better picture of what the Center for Spiritual Living in Southeast Louisiana stands for and what we embrace as we come together, as well as when we're moving through our individual daily lives. So today's topic is about healing hearts and precisely what that means to our community. And your question for the week is this: what's the one thing that you might do to know we heal the past by living fully in the present? What's the one thing that you might do to know that we heal the past by living fully in the present? So when we speak of healing hearts at our center, we're speaking of healing hearts that have been wounded in some way, whether that wound be from the dogma of traditional religious beliefs, from misunderstandings that lead to disconnections, from the passing of a friend or a family member, from the shift of a significant relationship from what you desired it to be, or the loss of a job or some other hurt. A healing heart needs a place in which to relax in acceptance and love. Now, we've no doubt all heard that Swedish proverb, shared joy is a double joy, shared sorrow is half sorrow. So if you've been wounded by a limited view of God, or wondering why any father would allow bad things to happen to good people, no matter what that bad thing might appear to be, at this center, we offer an experience of a healing atmosphere and a different view of church. But before I explain what healing hearts means to me as the spiritual leader of this community, I thought I'd let you hear from how our congregants see our community as healing hearts.
I'm Robert Nash, and I'm here to talk about heart song and healing. I've learned a lot of different things, through the different sermons and just discussion groups, actually, especially after church. I was in a spiritual desert for most of my life, actually. And I didn't realize until I had gotten to a really hard place in my life that all of a sudden poetry started coming. And I was actually working through my spirituality through my guides, actually. And when I finally realized, when I got through various places that I tried to find spirituality in, I finally found CSL. And part of that poetry that I had gotten before, things started clicking. And in many ways I've been fairly more spiritual than I've ever thought about being. And so I've been happy with that because it's helping to evolve my spirituality. I wrote a poem, a heart song, without me ever hearing that words before either. So my spiritual journey has been an interesting one. And I guess maybe more important since I've had to dig for it. So yay, CSL.
Hello, my name is Tom Tarver, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about, at our Center for Spiritual Living, what healing hearts means to me. As many of us probably experienced growing up, our religion that we may have been brought up in always told us we weren't good enough, that we weren't strong enough, we weren't faithful enough. There were many times in my life where I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed to be healed of stuff that I came to realize later that there was nothing to be healed. And what Reverend Larry usually says, nothing to be healed, God is revealed. And when God was revealed, I realized they weren't anything that needed to be healed. Those were my gifts from that Spirit of God. Because there's roads and paths that I can take based on my life experiences that others can't. So I'm so grateful for that. And here at the Center for Spiritual Living, again, as we were raised, we were taught that God lives within, God is within. But it didn't really seem to show that way of thought in the religion. And so again, we came back to, I'm not good enough. But what we've come to learn, and what I learned a long time ago, that God is within. And the more that we accept that truth, the more that God is revealed. So while we may have been raised to know that kind of by rote, here it's lived. Here it's taught. Here it's honored, respected. And there's no better way to live our life. So I hope that helps. Thank you.
Now that you've heard the congregants' view of how our center is a place to heal hearts, I want to give you my view and why it was crucial, part of the foundation of this center for me. I spoke last week about power and why I had a negative view of it because I had experienced the misuse of power by some ministers in my life. And I believe that's why it's so important for me to have our center be a place for hearts to heal, especially hearts that in any way have been wounded by religion or religious leaders. There's something very sacred about ministry. The fact that a person is a religious leader, that is a leader in your community, in your church, gives them an instant karma or an instant credibility that they're trustworthy and they care about who you are and what your problems are. So most people feel that they can speak openly to their ministers and know that when they open their heart, either aloud or silently, that who they are will be loved and accepted. I mean, after all, Jesus loved everybody, right? So the role of a pastor or a minister is to be trustworthy. And deep down, hasn't everyone at some point believed that? I know I did. And then I was hurt very deeply. The problem with being wounded by a minister or by believing in a religion that rejects who you are or the essence of who you are is that trust and faith become wrapped up with fear and disbelief. And the wound of that particular hurt, etches its way deep onto your heart. And the wound that's deep is difficult to replace so that you can have joy and peace in your heart, as we sang about in our opening song. I have a favorite quote from Ernest Holmes that helped me through difficult times, and I really believe it captures the essence of healing. There is nothing to be healed, only the truth revealed. So for any type of healing to occur, we have to first be aware of the wound, that place from which the hurt is emanating. Then we must find the truth behind the hurt. There's this Rumi quote that says, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you've built against it." Now, this quote is about love, but I think it's equally the essence of healing. That our task is to find all the barriers within ourselves that we've built against healing and against those hurts. And one of those barriers for most people is trust. And when the hurt comes from religion or from a religious leader, the trust is on a number of different levels. Why would I ever want to be involved in an organized religion again? How could a loving God allow this hurt to happen to me? So how do I know about trust issues? And where have I been wounded by religion? As the spiritual leader and founder of this community, that's why I see it so important that we're here to heal hearts. I was a member of a non-denominational community in Portland, Oregon, and I had sought that new community because I had been hurt by something that happened in the Catholic Church community. I was very active in that Catholic church community. As my sister would have said, I was very Catholic. The point was that I volunteered, I was active in the choir, I was a reader, and I went over whenever they needed things to be done. And at one point I overheard members talking about me, and what they said was I wasn't to be trusted because I was a divorcee. Now that limited view of God, and no one in the room willing to state a different view, was really hurtful. Judging people because of a human condition was not the type of church community that I wanted to be a member of. So I sought a different community, and I found a place where they spoke about acceptance and love and the individual presence of the God within. And I loved it there. It was a small community to start out with. There were only like 35 or so members in the community. And during the years that I was part of that community, the community actually grew to 3,000. And they took on financial obligations, and eventually there were money issues, and they misused congregational donations. Now, I was one of those people that tied more than 10%, and it hurt me that the choices of the minister and the people in power in whom I had placed my trust had allowed this to happen. There was a sense of they didn't have any integrity. And eventually the community fell apart. So certainly that's not what I want us to have happen here. I helped another minister start a community and encourage people to come, and I watched that minister also abuse his role in ministry. When I was in an ethics class in my ministerial school, I decided that I needed to report this minister. And his need to point a finger at me, rather than own up to what he actually had done, was very, very hurtful to me. And we went through all kinds of hearings, and I had to listen to a lot of things that weren't true about me because he was trying to make himself look like he hadn't done the things that many people in the community knew he had done. And I almost left ministerial school because of that, because now I had all this evidence that a lot of ministers abuse their power. They're looking not at the power of love, but at the love of power. And fortunately for me, I ended up in a class where I had a teacher who taught me that I would never hurt people in that way because my heart wouldn't allow me to do it. And I heard something about that same time that really sounded to resonate with me, and it was that hurting people hurt people. You know the scenario, I'm sure. The boss gets upset with the employee over something, and the employee goes home and yells at his spouse, and then the spouse punishes the kids for something that on any other day wouldn't have bothered them at all, and then the kids are upset and they kick the dog. That's a lot of hurt that results from one little small act of somebody being hurt and not dealing with it. But the bottom line for me was I had to choose to let go and to recognize that the truth of what I was seeking was not coming from any other minister, and the philosophy of acceptance and love was something that I really wanted to spread. Tolerance and integrity. And that revelation for me that hurting people hurt people really was the basis of me recognizing that I wanted to establish a community where we could heal people and not have them feel hurt. So for me, the need to have a community that healed was on the top of my requirements when I set out to create a center. If we can help people who are hurting heal that hurt, we're obviously reducing the amount of hurt on the planet. And at the same time, we create a community that's founded in integrity, in acceptance, in love, and the ability to comfort other people when they need comforting, and really come from a place of truly caring about what they're hurting about. Our community wants everyone to know that they're accepted and loved just as they are. If they've had any hurt from a different religion, come see what we're about. We know that each person is doing the best they can with what they know at the time, and anything that appears to be something that's hurtful to someone else is just that they don't understand that philosophy of we don't need to hurt other people in order to get what we need on the planet. There's a different way to bring community together in worship, a way that's inclusive, a way that's without judgment, a way that recognizes that we are each born to stand out in our own unique way, whatever that way happens to be. A way that sees each person as the child of the divine in whom God is really very well pleased. So Carolyn Myss wrote, "Healing is a different type of pain. It's the pain of becoming aware of the power of one's strength and weakness, of one's capacity to love or do damage to oneself and to others, and of how the most challenging person to control in life is ultimately yourself." We each have a responsibility to become aware of our need for healing. Each of us carries with us hurts, traumas, wounds, and if they're left untreated, they become the drivers of our behaviors and our beliefs. And it isn't easy, but confronting these pains are how we actually set ourselves free from them. To confront the pain and hurt is a process that involves embracing that our true nature is wholeness. Ernest Holmes wrote, "Nothing can be nearer to you than that which is the very essence of your being." And that first sentence is so important, I'm going to repeat it. Nothing can be nearer to you than that which is the very essence of your being. And the quote continues, "Your outward search for God culminates in the greatest of all possible discoveries, finding God at the center of your own being. Life flows up from within you." And in our meditation song today, we heard that right where we are, we couldn't be any closer to the divine. If we indeed want to heal our hearts, then it's not so much about finding God outside of ourselves, but rather that right where we are, we truly couldn't be any closer. How can anything be closer to you than the very essence of your being, the individual expression of the divine that you are? And healing can occur when we accept that God is holding our hand, so we can walk that path to healing in confidence with some feeling of safety. In our community affirmation today, we affirm that we have spiritual tools for personal transformation. And one of those tools that we offer at this center is a spiritual practice called affirmations. Now, they're basically affirmations put in the form of a question. Because when we make a statement, our logical mind sometimes wants to argue with it. But when we put something in the form of a question, our very nature is to seek the answer to that question. So here's an example. Just listen to this statement. Whatever needs to be healed is healed. Now just embrace that for a minute and see if you hear any of those little words that say, yeah, right. Or anything within you that popped up as disbelief in your mind. Now try this one on. How is it that I so easily and willingly know that whatever needs to be healed is healed? How is it that I so easily and willingly know that whatever needs to be healed is healed? Now, when you heard that, what happened within you? Did you start seeking answers to that question? That's our very nature. We're built to answer questions and to try to find the answers to questions. That's how we've survived so many centuries. When someone asks you how you're doing, don't you feel compelled to give them an answer? Sometimes we don't actually tell the full truth, but we do feel compelled to answer the question. My point is, we want to answer questions. So when we use an affirmation and ask a question, our systems go into search mode to find the answer to it. Ernest Holmes in Light reminds us, in all forms of healing, all that can be done is to let an inner light flow to restore us to our original pattern of perfection. One more time. In all forms of healing, all that can be done is to let an inner light flow to restore us to our original pattern of perfection. Rumi also has a beautiful saying, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Wow. What if I made a choice in this very moment to allow the light of the divine to enter me and heal any wound that's within me? Here's an affirmation you might want to use. How is it that I so easily and willingly allow the light of the divine to enter my wounds and heal them? So today, the song right before the message was "Shine Through Me." And in the chorus we sang, "Shine through me, shine through me. Use this willing vessel, Holy Spirit, shine through me." Do you believe if you became a willing vessel that the light that shone through you would heal your past hurts? I believe that, and there is no shortcut to healing. There are no ways to avoid the discomfort of confronting the parts of ourselves that limit us from living our fullest potential. You have to feel them. What would be infinitely more uncomfortable than doing that would be to look back at your life knowing that with just a little bit of effort, you could have had everything you ever wanted. That you could have actually healed those hurts and lived in joy and peace rather than in the misery of pain and hurt. Marianne Williamson said this, "We do not heal the past by living there. We heal the past by living fully in the present." So how is it that you so easily and willingly live fully in the present? Perhaps use this question to enter a meditation with the intention of healing some hurt. Christian Larson wrote, "It's a difficult thing that we meet that enable us to bring into action the greater power that is within us." It's the difficult things that we meet that enable us to bring into action the greater power that is within us. Difficulties, therefore, are the most valued of opportunities, and if taken advantage of as such, will always be met with joy. One of the most courageous decisions that you will ever make is to let go of what is hurting your heart and to live each day with peace and joy in your heart, peace and joy in your mind, and peace and joy in your soul. So I challenge you this week. See where you're hurting and use an affirmation to heal that hurt. Let's pray. So just settling into that place within us that is a place of safety, a place of freedom, a place of joy, a place of peace and ease, and knowing that that is right where the divine lives, within you, as you, through you. What I know to be the absolute truth is that each day this week, if something comes up that's hurtful, that you're going to think of an affirmation that's going to allow you to let go of that hurt and live fully in the present. That you're going to see that hurt, if it was a difficulty, as an opportunity and to take advantage of it and recognize that you are the one that has to confront the parts of yourself that limit you. So I am just so grateful. I am grateful to know that the God without is the God within each of us. And I'm grateful to know that we are taking the hand of the divine, and the divine is doing the heavy lifting for us. And what we need to do is just to move forward. And it's on all that gratitude that I just release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action. Because I know the truth. that God is right where we are, that we indeed could not be any closer to that essence of who we are. And so I know that the divine is calling it good and very good. And so I can just say amen, and we can affirm it together. And so it is. So now's our time for the offertory blessing. I invite you to sing along with the offertory blessing song.